Hey folks, I know it's been a while since I've done anything on this YouTube channel, but I've been very busy lately, and that's exactly what this video is really going to be about, as I try to do these update videos every so often and kind of just talk about what I've been up to lately, what's been going through my head, what's going to be happening next, and all of that good stuff. So essentially, June was just super busy for me when it came to CSGO events. It started off with me doing DreamHack Austin at the very beginning of June, the first weekend of the month, and I had been knowing for a while I would be doing DreamHack Austin, but if you remember in my last update video, I didn't really know what was going to happen after that, if I was going to have much else to do in June. I had been in talks about some other events, but I didn't know how things were going to line up, and well, fortunately for me, everything lined up perfectly, and I wound up doing 4 events. Again, starting with Austin, and then I was home for about a week, and then I traveled off to DreamHack Summer over in Jönköping, Sweden, and then I went straight from Sweden to Italy to do the Zotac EU Regional Finals for their big grand finals they're going to have over in Hong Kong at the end of August. And then I stayed in Milan for an extra couple of days just to kind of go sightseeing, vacation, explore the city, have a good time, little mini vacation, I guess you could say. And then I flew home from Milan. I was home for one night, and then the very next morning I flew out to Santa Ana, California to do the Americas Regional Finals for that same Zotac Masters Cup series that I had done for Europe in Milan. So very, very busy June. I did a mixture of commentary and analysis, mostly commentary. The 2 Zotac events and DreamHack Austin, I did commentary. For DreamHack Summer, I was on the analyst desk. So it's always good to have a nice mixture. I think I like to bounce between the roles as much as I can, because I just want to be flexible and try to get, myself out there as much as I can and just show that I can work with anyone and do whatever and just try to maximize my chances to get opportunities. So it's always good whenever I can kind of do a little bit of both and kind of keep myself active in both roles and keep my name out there in both roles. So going to DreamHack Austin, this was interesting because I started out actually casting with Blue for the first day because Risk had some travel issues and couldn't make it for the first day. And so I was doing a straight up color commentary with Blue. I had worked with him a little bit already for the CSL finals, which was like this college land that I had done, I think back in like April or something like that. And so I had some experience casting with him, but not much. But working with him here was good the first day. And then going out through the rest of the tournament, I actually worked with Risk, and Risk is more comfortable doing color commentary, actually, particularly when he has to speak English, because it's his second language. Obviously, in Danish, he's fine doing play-by-play, but he tells me kind of that he's not as comfortable doing play-by-play in English. He can do it, but it's just not as comfortable for him, and he likes to do a little bit more of analysis and stuff like that. So it's kind of pairing up 2 color commentators together, essentially, for the next 2 days of DreamHack Austin. And so I kind of did a blend. I let him really focus on color commentary. He did a little bit of play-by-play here and there when it made sense, but I actually focused a lot more on play-by-play than I normally would, but still try to do an analytical twist to it, kind of a hybrid style of casting. I would still try to get hype and really cover the clutch moments with pure play-by-play, but throughout the early round process and when we're kind of bouncing back and forth, I try to focus more on my strengths, which is talking about, tactics and strategy, what teams normally do on this map, what they're doing right now, based on what I'm seeing, what do I think they're going to do next, what's typical of them, kind of what's their tendencies or what's their favorite thing to do. And I tried to blend in some, analysis about tactics into a little bit of play-by-play commentary. It was a lot of fun to do play-by-play. I don't do it very often. It's definitely not my strong suit, but it's something I used to do quite a lot years ago before I had got to a point where I felt comfortable doing color commentary analysis because my knowledge back then wasn't good enough, and play-by-play is kind of how I got introduced into doing esports commentary, and so I was really focused on that. But it's nice to go back to it every now and then. For one, I think it's a skill that I need. Again, me being flexible, me being able to play multiple different roles in a broadcast is what allows me the best chance to get opportunities to do work on a broadcast in CSGO or potentially other esports titles down the road. And on that note, when it comes to doing other esports titles down the road, I think play-by-play commentary is probably the easiest role to transition besides maybe, desk hosting or stage hosting or something like that. It's a lot harder to learn a game and become an expert at it and be a really good analyst and color commentator. It takes time to build up that knowledge, study the game, go through film, talk to people, and just really get rooted in a new community when it comes to being super knowledgeable and being an expert or a pundit or whatever you want to call it. Whereas play-by-play, you can transfer a little bit easier, especially if it's a similar game. Like if I went to another first-person shooter, for example. So being able to do play-by-play, I think, is important. because even if I'm doing color commentary in a Counter-Strike broadcast, sometimes there are moments where, let's say, there's a technical issue and my co-commentator's mic isn't working or something like that, or maybe he has to cough or something like that, so he can't jump in and do something, or maybe he's already been talking for like 15, 20 seconds and he wants to pass to me to kind of make the cast more conversational rather than just someone talking 80% of the time and someone just chiming in a few sentences. And so you get stuck in moments where you have to be able to do some play-by-play, and being a more complete commentator, I think, is the ultimate goal for most people. Just because you never know what situation you might get stuck in, and you never know what opportunities might be around the corner that you might want to approach, and being able to have the right skill set and confidence in doing each role is important. So again, DreamHack also was really important for me for that reason, to kind of brush up on some play-by-play. It's a lot of fun, to have fun, to try to build up some confidence, because I feel like I've been suffering from a lack of confidence for a while now. And so it was a nice change of pace, and it was a lot of fun working at Risk. I think we actually got to cast a couple of cool semifinals the last day. We actually had like Rogue and Fraxters go all 3 maps, had some close games, and Space Soldiers versus Heroic was even close. It was a 2-mapper, but 1 map was in overtime. And so it was definitely a lot of fun. So then I went from this to preparing for DreamHack Summer, where I was actually a desk analyst alongside Pimp, who I had never actually worked directly with before. We've been at events together, but we've never been on a desk together. It's also Paulo is hosting the desk, which again is someone I've worked indirectly with. We've been at events together, but I've never, worked under him as him being a desk host. So it was, again, a way new environment for me, even though it's desk analysis, which I've done a lot of. It's still new when you're working with different people and you don't know necessarily what they're going to want to do or how they're going to steer things. And it's definitely can be hectic in that regard. And it was also weird because up until a week before in DreamHack Summer, I originally was going to be co-commentating with Vince. So obviously everyone out there knows Vince, and maybe a lot of people will know that Vince and I actually did a lot of casting together in 2017 for a lot of different DreamHack Open events like Leipzig and Tor and Summer. We did the B stream for DreamHack Masters Malmo. We did some stuff online for different DreamHack qualifiers. I think we did the Asian minor together last year as well for PGL Krakow. And we were working together quite a lot last year, and it was something we were actually trying to do regularly. It's very difficult, obviously, because we're from different continents, and so I'm not always able to get invited to European events due to like travel costs and different things like that. Always usually makes sense to maybe use more European commentators in those situations, depending on the event and the budget and maybe just what the tournament organizer wants to do. The person in charge of the broadcast may like Vince a lot, like his commentary, but may not like the duo or may not like me as much. And so it never made sense to enforce the duo and deny one of us an opportunity because we are only willing to work with each other or something like that. It's a very tricky situation in that regard, unless you're one of like the super established duos and people just kind of know that you go together and just, don't even question it. It's done, right? So yeah, originally we were going to work together here because we actually hadn't worked together in a while, because Vince was actually working with Vendetta for a couple of events like DreamHack Winter and Blast, and then he obviously got invited to kind of replace Pansy at that EPL finals at the end of the year. And then eventually he even rolled into the next DreamHack Masters Marseille to kind of replace Sadakis to work with Henry G. And so he had been just taking opportunities and working with different people, which is something he's done a lot throughout his career. And we were going to finally sync back up actually at DreamHack Summer and try to maybe get back to working together again. Because while I think some of our earliest events in 2017, I personally kind of struggled to make the duo work as well as I could have, because I was just struggling with talking speed. I was struggling with being redundant in what I was saying and the points I was trying to make. And I was also just, lacking confidence after the whole Smiths incident and just wasn't on top of my game. And also I felt like there were times where I was just too hyper-focused on my research and my notes and trying to bring that into the broadcast. And it caused me to miss things that were happening live right in front of me that were important that I should have really been highlighting more. And so towards the end of the year, I really feel like I was trying to focus on that. And I feel by the time we got to DreamHack Summer and by the time we did that B stream for DreamHack Masters Malmo, I felt like I was starting to get that sorted. And we were even starting to build some real chemistry where I was able to actually throw in some banter and actually have a little bit more fun with the broadcast and be more than just a straight shooting caster that only brings you analysis. I was trying to bring a little bit more entertainment value by having a bit more of a rapport with my co-caster. And like I said, bringing in some jokes and things of that nature, taking jabs at each other or just making references or whatever the case may be to try to be more entertaining. And I feel like I did that even more with Hugo at iBuyPower Master at the end of the year. And it's something I'm still trying to work through this year. And we could talk about that a little bit as we get into some of these OTAC events. But essentially it just didn't work out. Unfortunately, Vince had some personal stuff happen to where he couldn't come out the DreamHack Summer, and I'm not going to, say what it was. That's not, my place to do. It's just, I will say he's just been really unlucky with a lot of things that have happened, in his personal life with family and things like that over the last 6 months or so, which has caused him to have to kind of take a step back and really focus on family and focus on himself and things of that nature. And so we weren't able to work together at DreamHack Summer, unfortunately. And so I got thrown on the desk, and I was fine with it. Obviously, I'd done the desk before, but after doing a bunch of events as a commentator, I felt a little bit rusty on the desk, actually. I think one of the biggest things you have to adjust to when you're on the desk is just you don't have as much time as you think you do to maybe make a point or to talk about something you really want to talk about. You have to be a lot more concise, and you have to understand that the goal is to get into the game as quick as possible in a lot of these situations. And so you're really just trying to make sure that once the game is ready, you're ready to pass it over to the casters and get in game, especially if you're doing a day of like 4 best of 3s or a day of 6 best of 1s where, you have a long day and you're trying to, get done at a reasonable time. And stay on schedule for what you've planned for. If not, try to get ahead of schedule as best as you can to over-deliver almost. And so I felt that there was definitely some times where I did really well with my analysis at this event, where I hit the points I wanted to and I explained them really well, and I backed it up with, data I had done from all the research, because I'm always out there just trying to stay up to date on results and stats and watching demos and kind of keeping an eye on what adjustments teams are making or what they like to do tactically and all that stuff. But that's just the problem, right, is that the desk isn't really built for talking about tactics and strategy, and that's what I really enjoy most about Counter-Strike. It's, I think Thorn put it best, and I think I've kind of, noted on this a little bit in some other video content, where like the desk is the identification stage of a match, where you're identifying the teams, the players, what they've been up to lately, what kind of form are they in, whether that be the individual players or the team overall. Map pick band's a big part of the analyst desk and pregame segments. And then obviously in postgame, it's about just really highlighting the most important parts of the match. Maybe even you get to do some weatherman type stuff, though that don't see that as often, unfortunately, which I think is a huge drag. I think we really could make analyst desk better by having weatherman segments more readily available. I know it's a technology cost with having like a telestrator, and it can take up a lot of time that maybe you don't have on the desk because you're trying to keep your desk segments like maybe only 10 to 15 minutes at most. And so, yeah, it'd just be nice if there was more to do, though. Like, it does feel a little bit stale at times that you pretty much talk about the same thing every desk segment, and there's not as much room to maybe do some cool stuff with, like, video replays or telestrator stuff, like the weatherman stuff. And I don't know. Like, I wish there was a little bit more to maybe those post-game segments or something like that, or even pre-game segments. But anyway, I still felt comfortable in the role. It's still cool working with Pimp Impala. I just think that there were times where I felt like I just didn't have enough time to make the points I wanted to make. There were a lot of times I wanted to set up the game by talking a little bit about what the teams like to do tactically, and I only rarely got to do that. But again, I think that's more on me than the desk itself, understanding what my place is on the desk in pregame segments and what I should be focusing on, and just kind of having a mentality shift on exactly what I should be, kind of emphasizing and what I should be trying to do on the desk. And so that's part on me, but part on, I feel like desks do get a little bit stale. I think we could make them a little bit better at some of these events. But all in all, it was still a lot of fun. Scrawny, Hugo, Blue, and Risk were there, as well as casters. And Scrawny and Hugo and I definitely have a lot of fun hanging out and talking to each other. And then Blue is someone that I didn't get to really hang out with at all up until this year. Like, we've been actually working together a lot this year just by chance. And it's been really cool getting to know him. And Risk is always a nice, chill guy to talk with. So we had a really cool crew to kind of hang out with between games and different things like that. So it was still wound up being a lot of fun. I really wish Vince could have been there. I really wish we could get back to casting together. It would have been cool for that event to finally be that happening for us. Again, it's just been unfortunate trying to work together with, him kind of working with other people because of the opportunities he's been given, which he definitely deserves. And then just him not really being able to travel to North America unless it's like for a really, really big event. And he's openly stated this, that he really only can travel to NA if it's like, a tier 1 event, if the risk is worth it, if the reward's worth the risk, so to speak. And so that really stopped us from doing a lot of North American DreamHack Open events together, or like iBuyPower Masters last year. So it's getting to a point now where I'm not sure where that's going to go. Like, we're still really good friends. We still keep in touch. We're still open to working together. We still try to recommend each other, so to speak, when we can. It's just unfortunate a lot of the stuff I get is North American based, and he can't really do that. So we'll have to see what happens in the future. I wish him nothing but the best, and hopefully we'll cross paths again. But Definitely, you know, it was unfortunate that it didn't work out for summer, but hey, it is what it is. And we just have to kind of keep moving forward. So with that, I went straight to Milan, Italy, and here I was actually working with Blue. Tom Biz was working with Hugo. Then we had Swan and Devillock actually there as analysts, and it was the, like I said, the European Zotac event, which ultimately Kingwin qualified for. Taz's a new team, but obviously a lot of familiar faces on the Kingwin team from the Polish scene that have been together for a while, or have been playing in the scene for a while at least. And this event was a little bit rough because there was a lot of different like technical issues that were taking place between games because it was a new TO that hadn't really done this type of stuff before. And while they were working really hard and they were trying their absolute best, and you could tell that they were, you know, just really passionate and really, you know, trying to give it their all, they just lacked experience and in some degree maybe just lacked enough staffing to really do things the right way. So, for example, they didn't have solid state drives for players. So we had a huge break in between every game as people had to like manually set up their stuff between every game, and that could be a huge time drag. There's a couple little things like that. But all in all, the event wound up being a lot of fun. I got back to casting at this event, and this is where, again, I got to really focus on some of the weak points I wanted to fix, which was focusing on talking speed, focusing on not being redundant, and focusing on having a little bit more fun with the broadcast, not being as uptight, being a little bit looser, trying to have a little bit more fun with it as far as, you know, joking around with my co-caster or just having fun. You know, that's really the best way to put it. And just kind of trying to build some confidence, just try to, you know, really just feel more at ease instead of being like so tense and have like this chip on my shoulder where I have to try to prove everybody wrong that doesn't like me and, you know, all this good stuff. Like I just tried to relax and just realize that, hey, like the reason why I got into this in the first place is because I enjoyed it. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it. Let me have fun with this. I still want to, you know, bring analysis and bring insight and still bring that research into the broadcast. And I feel like I did a good job with that at this event, being able to talk about how teams like to play and what to look out for and talk about the tactics in the mid-round segments that I got to do some color commentary with. And so it felt like I hit a nice balance of, you know, having fun and bringing in the research, but still focusing on the game itself and having a little bit more fun with my co-caster. It just felt better. And I had a lot of fun for that reason. And also Milan is a sick city, man. So much fun hanging out between games and after work days and the couple extra days I stayed afterwards. You know, so much good food, cool Renaissance art, cool architecture, just a lot of friendly people. You know, even though I obviously can't speak Italian, that never was a problem. Everyone was happy enough to help me out, even if I couldn't speak their language. You know, never really ran into language barrier issues at all, actually. I definitely recommend checking out Milan if you ever get a chance to go visit Europe or go visit Italy in particular. I know that there's other cities that people like to visit in Italy, like Rome or Naples and stuff like that, which are definitely cities I want to visit someday too. But Milan was definitely just a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool like history and culture there, as well as great food and just good times, really. So it was a nice little mini vacation in Milan I got to kind of have while I was working the event and after I was done the event. And it was nice just to kind of unwind and explore a new place. And, you know, that's kind of one of the cool things about esports is that without it, I don't know that I've ever gotten the chances to visit these really cool places. And so that's just kind of something else that I had to remind myself of how fortunate I am to be able to travel around the world doing what I love doing and getting to experience really cool places like this. And so it was definitely a lot of fun. And on the way back home, though, I had some issues. Actually, my baggage got delayed, and I didn't get it until 30 minutes before I flew out to California. So I had to, like, buy new clothes, repack on the fly, and then travel to California. And then on my way to California, I hit really bad weather. Going from like my city to Atlanta, which is where I always kind of fly out of. It's like my big connection point. And we actually had to circle around Atlanta for like an hour. And then we eventually got diverted somewhere else to refuel, sat at that airport for several hours, and then finally flew into California. And originally I was going to go to LAX, but then I flew into SNA, which was actually better for me because the hotel is closer to that airport anyway. And when I got to California, my baggage got delayed again. I didn't get it until the next afternoon, but I had rehearsal in the morning, so I had to go buy clothes again. So it's basically the same thing all over again. So there was a lot of hassle on that front, but I think I'm going to get reimbursed for all of it. And I'm kind of working, submitting receipts and dealing with all that paperwork to handle that. It's all good, but definitely just a little bit of added mix-ups to everything, which was not as fun to deal with. But again, it was worth it. Get to Zotac, the America event, my last event of June. Again, I'm working with Blue. We're the only casters at this event, actually. Have a good desto of like Nothing and Lurpus and Red Eye, actually. We had some good observers as well, like Efren, who's been doing a lot of cool stuff. And this is, again, working with a new organization that hadn't done stuff before. I think they're called Real Time Strategy, but they have a lot of experienced people on their staff, like Gary Briggs, I think is his last name. He's a guy who's worked for like Intel, for Intel LandFest, and worked as an engineer for Intel for many years. I think he did some stuff for DreamHack for North America. And so he was kind of like the head of this event. And then his wife was actually helping out, which she has like a huge background in like operations in the healthcare industry, like operations and logistics and management and things like that. So she definitely brought a lot of organization and communication to the table and trying to make things work really well, like get all the moving parts on the same page, so to speak. And then her brother is like an accountant who was helping out as well. And their kids were also helping as like team managers, like making sure all the teams had what they needed and where they were needed to be. Everything was super organized and super well run. This real-time strategy company, for a new company that's only been around for like I think 6 months and has never done a real tournament like this before, fantastic job on like who they hired. They also hired people that do admin work for DreamHack, like Claudia and Kate. Some people may have seen them around or seen them on camera before, not even realize it, at different like DreamHack events and maybe ESL events. So they got that admin team. They had a little bit of Civo help as well, as far as like servers and client and stuff like that. And then they hired this production company that was really good as well, that does stuff normally for like different conventions. I think like Magic the Gathering and stuff like that, actually. But they were really good. I think they're called like Atomic something. Sorry, I can't remember. Anyway, the point is I was really surprised how smooth and how well run this event was, given it was a new company. When you go work an event for like a DreamHack or some of these other organizations that you've worked with regularly, you kind of already know what to expect. You feel pretty good, like you feel pretty comfortable, like you know what you're going to get. And when you go work for a new company, it's kind of always a dice roll on how smooth things are going to be, and just how things are going to go. But they took super good care of us, had an amazing hotel, amazing food, for catering. They ran things super smooth. I think those event days ran super quick, man. Like just everything was on point. There was really no technical delays or anything like that. It felt good. So I was really happy about that. And again, I felt good about the commentary. The first day though was super long because it was 3 best of 3s. And usually at events you kind of have like a rotation of casters where maybe you only do like 2 best of 3s in a day at max. So we're having to do 3 best of 3s. And then of course all 3 best of 3s last so long. Like the first best of 3 went all 3 maps, and it included one map that had an overtime. That was Complexity versus Furia. Then you had Sharks versus Swole Patrol, which is the longest 2-0 in CSGO history. It just has to be. Like the first game went into, I think, double overtime. Yeah. And then the second map went into like 6 overtimes. Like the final score was 34-31 of map 2, and the first map was 22-20. So it took like over 100 rounds to get a 2-0 completed. So it was a marathon. And then we knew we had another best of 3 to go, which was, I believe, United versus Furia, if I'm not mistaken. And that went all 3 maps, though all the maps were pretty one-sided in whichever direction they went. So it was a super long day of commentary, but it was still a lot of fun. Again, I got to keep working on, my confidence and my flow of casting and what I was focusing on and what I was trying to do, having fun with it still. I think it helped out a lot that I was working with Blue again, who I'd already worked with at Zotac from Milan and who I'd already worked with at the CSL College Finals. So there was actually a little bit of kind of a pattern being formed, so to speak, on kind of what to expect from each other and kind of working together and bouncing back and forth better. Working with Blue is actually a hell of a lot of fun. And I think he's improved a lot as a caster himself. And I think that he's getting his confidence and he's starting to kind of hit his stride as a commentator as well. And so it was a lot of fun working with him and hanging out with him throughout all of this. And this event in particular was really good. Even though it wasn't like a super huge event with like all the biggest teams, just the way it went was a lot of fun and it felt good. And then I actually got to play in the show match the next day alongside Blue. I think my team was like me, Blue, then it was like Fiflarian, Lurpus, and Sean Gares. And then we played against like Nothing, Launders, Warden, and a couple of other people. I think like B, and then some guy named Talon, who's like a PUBG streamer or something like that. Didn't really know him that well. And we actually won. It was like a really wacky game because we were doing it for charity, and it was like each of us were representing a certain hospital for the Gamers Outreach Organization. And so based on like who had the most donations, you know, the team that had the lower amount had to go through like a challenge. Like one round was we could only buy Zeus's and pistols, and we had to use the Zeus first. And then like another round, we couldn't run forward. We could only run backwards and strafe. And then there was one round we could only buy like Novas. So there's all these like little challenges. One challenge is like having to stay together, having to like only crouch walk. All kinds of wacky stuff were happening in the game. It was a lot of fun. We actually wound up winning. Blue had an ace, which was pretty cool. And then I had like a big op 4K round and a couple of rounds where I got like some sick 1-digs. So it was actually a lot of fun to have the show match. And then of course we casted Ghost, winning the event ultimately in pretty convincing fashion. Looked really sharp at that event. And again, just another fun time. And then that was basically the end of my June run. So 4 events, mixture of commentary analysis, mostly commentary, and really just trying to work on the things I want to work on and get better and more comfortable and more confident in my commentary. And I feel like I'm starting to accomplish that, and I want to keep doing that going forward. As of right now, I don't have anything else lined up that's guaranteed to me, I don't think. I mean, there's a couple of more NA stops for DreamHack Open, like Atlanta, and I think maybe Montreal. And so there's always a good chance I'll get involved in DreamHack Open events when they're on NA soil. So I think I could probably look at those 2 events and get at least one of them, if not both. So that's definitely something I'll be looking at, but those are like later in the year, like more towards September and November, so that's still a few months off. There's the chance, I guess, I could go to the Zotac Cup Masters in Hong Kong. I mean, I did 2 of their regional events, so maybe there's always a chance I get invited to like the big grand finals in Hong Kong later in August, with like the $300,000 prize pool. But they could also maybe go for like the bigger names. So I don't really know. I've definitely expressed interest in doing it, and they said they'd let me know. So we'll have to see what happens with that. That could be another opportunity. And then outside of that, I have no idea, you know, what's going forward. Obviously, I want to keep doing commentary and analysis and whatever I can get my hands on in Counter-Strike. Obviously, I want to keep working in esports, particularly as a broadcaster, but obviously I'm open to other opportunities as well. Definitely keeping my eyes open for them. Definitely, if you're someone watching this and you need a caster or whatever for a CSGO event or what have you, definitely hit me up. But yeah, I'm not sure what the future really holds, and I feel like that's kind of a common position for maybe commentators at my level or maybe slightly above or below me, where unless you're like one of the cream of the crop names at the top of the totem pole and you kind of know that you're always going to get work, unless you royally screw up or you decide yourself to take a step back, you know, you kind of get into these gaps sometimes where you don't have work for a little while. It's happened to me so many times, you know, like I did a decent amount of work in 2017 throughout the bulk of the year, but like the last 2 or 3 months of the year, I had nothing. And then the first 2 or 3 months of this year, I had nothing. I had like a 5-month gap with no offline events between the end of 2017 and the beginning of this year. And then I got those events for StarLadder in like March and April, which was like the Chongqing Invitational and then BetsNet Masters. And I did the Marseille NA qualifiers. So I was getting some work there. Then I didn't really do anything like the last 2 weeks of April and basically nothing in May except for that college finals I did. That may have actually been in April too. I'm not really sure. Point is you find yourself sometimes getting in these gaps where you don't have any work lined up. And basically that causes a couple of problems. One, you don't know when your next paycheck's coming. So even though maybe you gained a good amount of income because I just worked 4 events in a row in June, so it's obviously a decent chunk of change that comes in, you burn through that pretty quick if you go to 2 or 3 months where you get 0 income. Right? So it becomes like a stress financially, but it's also just like, you know, you want to keep growing, you want to keep your name out there, you want to keep getting better at what you do, and you want to keep, you know, chasing after your passion, so to speak, and you kind of get denied that if you know, kind of go missing for several months. It's kind of like, you know, one of those things where, and the odds of the community, perhaps, it's like, you know, out of sight, out of mind kind of starts to happen a little bit as well. It's nice to have a break, obviously, to kind of focus on other things in your life. Like for me, it's focusing on health and fitness and losing weight and getting in better shape in general, which is something I've been doing throughout this year pretty heavily. And I've definitely made a lot of progress, though I think I hit kind of a plateau when I did these 4 events in June because some of the places I went to didn't even have like gyms available to me at the hotel. And so I couldn't really keep up my regimen. And also like when I'm in Italy, you know, I kind of want to splurge and eat some pasta, man. Like, come on, I'm in Italy. But obviously, I mostly try to focus on a super low carb diet, almost like pure keto. So kind of killed that while I'm in Italy. But now that I've been back, I can focus back on it. I didn't gain any weight, luckily, throughout these past 4 events, which was something that always used to happen to me. I feel like I would, you know, get some weight loss. You know, I would focus really well. I'd get, you know, some progress going, and then I'd go to a few events in a row and like destroy all of it and basically hit a reset button, have to start all over again. This time I didn't do that. I stayed the same weight throughout all 4 events, maybe even lost a couple of pounds actually between like around the California stint. And I'm going to keep that going. So I'm pretty sure I'm not doing anything in July. Like, I think that's pretty much guaranteed because all that's going on in July is like Valencia and the minors, and I wasn't invited to either of those. So I know I have the whole rest of this month of July to really focus on like weight loss and dieting and things of that nature. And then at least the bulk of August, because of the player break, is built into that. And then again, like the only event that I think I possibly could get in August is like Zotac in Hong Kong, if that works out. So I have basically another, I would say, at least 5 to 7 weeks to focus just on working out and doing content perhaps and things of nature. So that's what I'm going to do. And that goes into the point about content. I think I want to start doing more videos on this YouTube channel. I was trying to take the approach of not doing videos here and doing them for other people, or writing articles and trying to monetize my content more, because I really wasn't able to monetize here on YouTube. But I think I'm going to do a mixture of that. I definitely have some ideas in mind for some CSGO stuff I want to do. You might see me do some more tactical videos with Shadow Analytics, which I did a couple of videos for them already. You can go check out their YouTube channel. Just search Shadow Analytics on YouTube. And I did a couple of videos about Astralis on there. Didn't really get that much attention, unfortunately, but I thought they were pretty good videos, and I hope to do more tactical stuff like that, because that's what I like to do the most in Counter-Strike, is tactical stuff. So you may still see me publishing content elsewhere as far as like videos and things like that go, but I definitely will be putting some more stuff on this channel as well. I have a couple of ideas in mind already. You might see some more Battalion Team 44 content on here, and you might see me kind of diving into other games, because I really do think that at some point I'm going to have to start transitioning to other esports. I don't want to give up on CSGO, and I'll probably always try to work in CSGO as long as the game is alive. I definitely don't want to give up on the game. I love the game too much for that. But in order to get work more regularly, actually make a true career out of doing esports broadcasting, I need to be flexible and being willing to do other games. And I might just naturally be interested in other games as they come up. Battalion 54 was kind of one of those things for me. So that's something else I might be looking at going forward as well. But yeah, definitely just keep your eyes glued to the YouTube channel for more videos, either update videos like this, more personal vlog stuff, maybe more interviews might be coming. Definitely some more Counter-Strike content, like following the like Hold Dust Discusses kind of format. I've done a bunch of other CSGO videos in that format. I'll continue to do that. And yeah, that's really about it. I know this video's already been super long. I didn't mean for it to be that way, but you know, I did a lot of events. And, you know, I really want to talk about kind of how those events went, what I was focusing on at those events. And for the future, I still want to keep working on the confidence, keep working on having fun with the broadcast, obviously keep my knowledge up to snuff. You know, I definitely feel like I have a pretty good routine about how I do research and how I try to stay knowledgeable. And I want to keep that up while also building up on other things. Now that I have that kind of rhythm established, you know, focusing on, I think I could still get better on talking speed. I think I still could get better on being, you know, sharper with my analysis and being less redundant. I think I could continue to build my confidence and have more fun with the broadcast. So I'm going to keep working on those things and keep making them better and better. And then the next thing I kind of want to add is I feel like I could be using my voice better. You know, I think my voice has gotten better over time already. Like if you compare some of my earliest YouTube videos to how I sound now, I think you definitely notice a difference. But I think I could be even better. You know, I think there's only so much you can do to your voice. Like, I'm never going to have, like, the movie trailer voice or, like, that deep, you know, kind of stereotypical radio voice. I'm never going to have that. And I'm never going to have that voice that just makes you think, wow, that guy should be on radio or that guy should be a commentator. I don't really have that voice. But I think I could still get better about how I stress certain words, how I pronounce certain words, how I use inflection and things of that nature to build up my commentary instead of being kind of like one voice, kind of monotony. I think I could work on, even as a color commentator, being a little bit better about how I hype things up or about how I just change things up and just kind of emphasize certain things more and just sound better. I think that's another thing I want to do. I still need to go back and watch a lot of the VODs of the events I just did. I haven't really gotten a chance to do that yet because I have only been home for about a week and I had some other stuff I had to do. So I'm definitely going to go back through those VODs from these different Zotac events and DreamHack and just see what else I could be working on. You know, what I don't like, what I do like, keeping the things I like, working on the things I don't like. And it's always just an infinite process. Like, I'm never satisfied, always hungry. I think that there's a fine line to dance between being confident in yourself, but then still being able to find things that you can work on and nitpick yourself and make yourself better. And so that's what I'm going to do. You know, that, and I also want to watch back some Cologne demos and keep up to date on what teams are up to. Because there's a lot of teams I didn't get to follow lately because I've been focused on other teams for the events I was working. And so I want to kind of take this time to watch those Cologne demos back and keep up to date on like what teams are doing strategically and stuff like that. So, and maybe do some content revolving around ESL One Cologne, some tactical stuff maybe. We'll have to see. But anyway, thanks so much for tuning into this. I'll be doing more update videos as they make sense. I'll be trying to do other content when I can. And yeah, thanks so much for checking this out and following, subscribing, all that cool stuff, and catch you next time.